Hey guys, let's talk about the Flesh and Blood spoilers that have come out and what they mean for the game. But before we dive into that, we want to say thank you to you guys, and the way we're going to do that is by giving back to you guys. We have a Ram's Head shield that we want to choose one of you guys to receive it because it's one of our extras to say thank you to you guys. And the way that we're going to be doing this in the future and more often is as we get more of these cards that are extras that we do not need in our collection in order to help you guys with your guys' either collections or being able to play your decks. We're going to be giving back to you guys. So hopefully we can do this more often as we're able to crack more boxes. But let's worry about that for the future. Today, let's talk about Dusk Till Dawn. And what this really is really, really unique because we are getting another reprint in this set, which is the Crown. And I feel it's a little too early, but at the same time, I understand where they're coming from with reprinting this card. It is extremely useful. It is used in almost half of my decks can run this card as a sideboard card, if not the main card. So it is a really, really good card, and I understand the reprint. It's almost like a Tunic in a way, where it is a really good generic staple, and it needed to be reprinted. Being reprinted in this set feels a little early, but they did the same thing with Tunic because it was such a needed card. It means that the cold foils of this card will hold their value way better than the rest of the other versions will, but it also means that it will knock the price down a little bit, and it will be easier to get your hands on to play the game, which I am about, but I also do like the collector side and understand where collectors might be worried about it. Now, setting that aside and moving on to the other big topics is LSS has tended to show favoritism to certain classes more than others. And I wonder when we're going to see this shift in LSS to support more of those other classes that are loved by other people and less of the classes that they love and that the community loves. Because illusionists have gotten a lot of Marvel art cards. I would have loved to see a few shadow Marvel cards in this besides what we got. It was once again with Uprising when we see how many illusionist Marvel cards there were in that set, and there really wasn't anything for the ninja class in that set. I would have liked to see a few more Marvel cards overall, maybe even some generics for all of the ninjas to access, not just Phi. And they've shown that they're leaning favoritism to certain classes. Now, this isn't a bad thing, don't get me on that, but it would be nice for those people that like to play maybe the Warrior or the Brute or the Runeblade. Now, Runeblade got one, but for all the Runeblades, that we get a little bit more Marvels for the other classes and not just illusionists, and trickle one or two other Marvels out here and there. Now, I understand in the last set we got a lot of Marvel equipment, but we're not getting those really beautiful cards like the Angels and the Dragons that most people want to put in their decks to show off and flex and have flashy cards. And to me, this is a little bit of a downer because we would hope that LSS would be printing more for more classes so that it welcomes other people into the game as well. So that if they're starting out and they're like, well, I want to play Warrior, and they hit a Marvel in the Warrior class, it's more excitement for them. I'm not saying this has to be done. I'm saying that this would be a good thing for the game, is if whenever they start printing Marvels in the future, they're not all tied to one specific class. It's not, all right, let's do Marvels for mainly Illusionist in this set. Let's do Marvels for mainly this in this set. Or we're going to do just all the Marvel equipment to really spread the Marvels out across whatever set's coming out so that everybody gets a little bit of the love would be a really, really good idea moving forwards. Now, once again, I'm not a member of LSS. I don't know what's going on, so that's up to them to decide how it's going to happen. And I just would really like to see the love being spread through all the classes and not feel like it's being tailored to just one. And you also see this in the cards that are printed, that we have more cards for certain classes than other classes. And that's really sad to me because a couple of heroes and classes in this set could have used a little bit more of a boost to their overall card pool than what they got. And it's not really that good to me to keep letting those other classes take a hit. In the long run, you might make up for it. We might make a set that is mainly tailored around them or those classes, but that doesn't help the game state now and also in the future, because what we want is we want a good game, which means we get a balance of everything kind of here and there. And I understand to people that want to say you can't balance everything all the time, and I agree with that. You can't. There's always going to be something that always tends to step over a little bit here and there. But what I am saying is we can afford to print a few more cards to help some of the card pools in certain classes get a little larger in certain sets rather than just minuscule larger, or just enough to say it's increased, but it really hasn't increased enough to make up for the gap difference from some classes to some classes. And that's what I'm getting at, is yes, I know we can't have a perfect balance, but right now some of the scales for classes are like this. You have this many Majestics or cards, and you have this many Majestics or cards. Some of the other classes are closer, but there's a lot of classes that have a huge imbalance. And those are the classes that I'm talking about that need a little bit more balancing act. Not just between their class, but between some of the other classes. I have a spreadsheet, I have the numbers crunched. There are some classes that are seriously lacking in cards to bring them up. With Dusk Till Dawn, it brings some of those classes up a little bit, but it does not completely fill the gap. And I'm not asking for a gap being filled, I'm asking for the gap to be brought closer than it is, because it is hurting the game state, because some people are not playing those cards or those heroes simply because there is not enough cards to make them extremely viable. Now, people that love those classes are playing them and they're tweaking them. In my opinion, they'll be the best players in those classes when they finally get enough cards to move forwards. But if we're talking about good games and great gameplay, you need those classes to show up a lot more frequently than they are, so that the variety of people playing, whether it's at an Armory event, a Blitz event, a Nationals event, is more widespread and not just tailored to one or two people. Now, with that being said, guys, I just want to leave you with that. Food for thought. All right, we'll catch you on the flip side.